Let's go. Good evening, everybody. We're recording this ahead of Saturday's trip to Bramall Lane for Derby. And joining me tonight is Nick Wiley from the Sheffield United way. Good evening, Nick.
Good evening. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. A lot better than if you'd spoken to many Derby fans sort of 10 days ago. I think off the back of two 1-0 wins, all of a sudden the mood has changed, and we're heading north with a bit of optimism, I think, on Saturday. Sheffield United, fair to say, well, underperforming expectations. I'm sure that must be fair.
Yeah, definitely fair. But it feels like we've turned a bit of a corner right now. Probably not. Well, you're probably aware that we lost a lot of games of football at the start of the season. I think it was, I don't even want to think how many games it was, but under Ruben says it was five league games and one cup game, I believe. And in those, I didn't see us winning any of them, nowhere near winning any of them. The mood was really, really low in the fan base. And usually, if it's you know a neutral, if I'm a neutral looking at a different club, I would be saying 6 games into a season is not enough for a manager to put their stamp on a team. But when you're watching that team week in, week out, and you're not seeing any progress whatsoever, any improvements, and they're making the same mistakes over and over again, especially as we amassed 92 points last season. Um, Similar team. Obviously, we've lost a couple of big names. A lot of loan players that we had last season went back. But we've done okay in the transfer market. We've It was a bit of a scattergun approach towards the end of it, but we brought in enough experience to, stop the rot, and it kind of just got worse and worse for Ruben. So, bringing back Chris Wilder is I think fans are probably split right down the middle. I think we all think it was the right decision to get rid of Ruben Sayers, and going back to Chris Wilder, who again amassed so many points last season, and if it wasn't for the week from hell where we lost 3 games in a row, we'd have probably been right up there with Leeds and Burnley. So I think bringing Chris Wilder back at this time, just to get the players kind of off the knees and back playing football and being competitive, was probably the best thing. But at the same time, it just feels like we're going round and round in circles, sacking Wilder, bringing him back in, sacking him, bringing him back in. So it's got to change at some point.
And so, therefore, are we likely to see a similar team? Obviously, like I say, slightly different personnel, but similar approach to football as we saw under Wilder last season. Has he reverted to that, or has he brought something different this time?
Um, Hard to say really, because Wilder played with one striker for most of the season, and then he changed it right at the back end and played with two, with Kiefer Moore being the target man, and either Tyrese Campbell or Tom Cannon just off him. Um, we are kind of switching between one and two again, so you could probably say similar, but whereas last season we had Andre Brooks and Jesram Rakisake on the right hand side coming in on their left, and the same thing on the right with Gus Harmer playing on that left hand side, kind of drifting into midfield on his right. This time we are kind of out and out wingers, like left sided players playing on the left and right playing on the right. So Cheo Ogbeni has been playing on the right, and he's made it his own. Really, he's not particularly been fantastic, but that's where he plays now. I can't see anyone taking that shirt away from him. So we've tried. It's a little bit different because Callum O'Hare's really come to the front, and I think that's mostly because we're playing, a right-footed player on the right-hand side, and they're going down the wing rather than coming inside, and that gives O'Hare so much more space in that number 10 role to do what he does best and create chances and score goals. So similar to last season, but that final third is slightly different.
It's amazing how playing players in a position that suits them reaps rewards. I think we found that in Derby in the last couple of weeks. He's now playing a formation that suits the players that we've got. It may not be John Eustace's preferred formation, but he's reverted to three at the back. We've got Sondre Langas back, who's been a star in the last couple of games and was last season playing with an injury. And all of a sudden, we look more solid at the back. We look like we're creating things going forward, which for us has been the balance. Early on in the season, we scored a lot of goals but conceded a lot. Then we switched around and didn't score many but didn't concede many. And the last couple of games, we seem to have got a balance right. So it'll be interesting. But Obviously, in the summer, we signed a couple of ex-Blades. Rhian Brewster joined us for obviously a free transfer in the end, given the way it worked out. And Ben Brereton Diaz. What are your thoughts on those two as Blades players, and what social reaction will they get from Blades fans going back to Bramall Lane?
I think both will, believe it or not, I think both will actually have get a warm reception, because despite Rian, costing so much money, 20, I can't remember if it was 24 million, I think it ended up being, when he was this rising star at Liverpool, scored loads of goals for Swansea, when he went out on loan, and we thought we were signing a ready, not necessarily a ready-made, yeah, bit rough, bit of a rough diamond, but he just couldn't stay fit. And you could tell that all the players loved him. You could tell that the fans really wanted him to do well. A lot of fans are obviously still annoyed that we'd spent so much money on a player that and we didn't get anything really from it. I think he scored like 9 or 10 goals in, like, what was it, 4 seasons, something like that. And he must have been on upwards of 50 grand a week. If not more. So yeah, I think there's still a large part of the fan base that's annoyed at Rhian Brewster, but he can't help it. He was just injured a lot. Those hamstrings are made of cheese strings, unfortunately for him, and I feel like that's going to keep cropping up in his career. But I think you guys getting him in on a free transfer, and I'm assuming a lot lower wages because we offered him a new contract. And I'm assuming Derby we're going to pay more, and I can see why he would go, and I can also see why we'd offer him a lot less because he's been, taking a large portion of the wage bill for such a long time. Um, I think I think we probably thought that he would stay true to us and take a lower offer because he's been, been paid such a whack for such a long time, but obviously not. But I feel like, you know he was the biggest cheerleader. It was the most expensive and the best cheerleader that we had. And everyone, like I said, everyone seemed to love him. All the players, fans wanted him to do well, and unfortunately, it never came true. But yeah, I think he'll get a good reception, and I think Ben Brereton Diaz, unfortunately, last season wasn't quite as good as he was when we were in the Premier League. I think the systems the system suited him better in the Premier League. I think he was sort of playing as a second striker to Ollie McBurney, and I think he thrived there. But when we were playing him out wide in a three, either on the left or the right, he didn't seem to work for him, unfortunately. It might have been all he had a really bad time at Villarreal, he had a really bad time at Southampton. Lots and lots of Southampton fans despised him for whatever reason, just because he wasn't as good at football as some of the other players that they got, which is not his fault. But I think it's because he had a good time with us in the Premier League. I think Southampton thought that they were going to get the same out of him, but I really want Ben Brereton to do well. He was one of my most favourite players on his two loan spells, and I don't know why that is. I think it was just the first season when he was so good in the Premier League for us. It was our shining light in a dreary season, and yeah, we all loved him the first time. The second time, it didn't quite work for him. So, his fans aren't as hot on him as they were before, but I'm still sure he'll get a bit of a clap at Bramall Lane.
It's interesting you say that about him playing on the right of a three. That's where he's been playing for Derby, and there's already a sort of feeling that we're not quite getting what we thought we were getting out of him. Although on Saturday, on another day he had a one header that hit the post, one that just went wide of the post. On another day, they'd have both crept in, he'd scored two, he'd have been the hero. There's just a feeling perhaps, and again, it may just be his body language that he doesn't always give the appearance that he's given 100% every minute of every game, and that at the moment is just rankling with a few fans, particularly when results weren't going well. Fans pick up on those sorts of things. If he can
Yeah,
get a goal on Saturday and everything will be forgotten, I think it's that sort of position he's in at the moment. And yeah, I think there's enough in there that like you say, he will contribute to us this season. And we've seen flashes of Rhian Brewster so far. Again, he's missed a couple of games by injury so far, which from what you said there, you won't be surprised to hear. But I think on Saturday you will probably see him, but you'll probably see him off the bench. At the moment, the starting lineup has, rightly earned their place by winning the last two games 1-0. I don't see John Eustace will change a lot for Saturday. And that means Brewster will be on the bench. But again, he's come off the bench in the last couple of games. I think we'll see that either way on Saturday, whichever way the result is going. So, to not drag this out too much longer, then looking forward to Saturday. I gotta say, I thought you were sort of starting to turn a corner when you came back against Blackburn previous game. The Preston game then perhaps went the other way. How are you looking at Saturday, and what are you expecting from Sheffield United this weekend?
Well, I certainly do think we've turned the corner. I think we got the win against Watford at home, which we weren't brilliant, but we got that win. That's all that mattered. Like you say, against Blackburn, we turned it around from 1-0 down to win 3-1 with the big guns coming off the bench. And I think that's the way we need to be. We need to be going. We need to make sure we're not playing the same team week in, week out. Chop it and change it. Give the players that fire in the belly to come on and try and make things like change things. And I think that we were running away with it at Preston, 2-0 up. If they don't, I honestly think that if they don't score the first goal in the dying embers of the first half, then that ends up 3-0 or 3-1 to us, and we move on with 3 wins in 3. Um, I think it was a culmination of a lot of things happening that was just unexpected. Like scoring so late on in that first half, and then Tanganga scoring a crazy own goal off his, I don't know if off his shin or what, it was just couldn't sort his feet out. And then that massively put us on the back foot. And, when you've lost so many games this season, we definitely had turned a corner. But when you've lost so many games, it almost feels like they reverted back to, oh no, here we go again, shoulders drop. So I think we'll be fit and firing and ready for this game. And I think the fact that we threw it away against Preston, I feel like that will give them the again fire in the belly to go and win this game. So it feels like there's two teams that seem to have turned a little bit of a corner, and will go and give it a right good go, which is quite exciting for Saturday.
Yeah, I think the one thing that we definitely noticed about Derby last weekend was probably for the first time, maybe first time this season, we actually started the game strongly. We've had a lot of games where we haven't really turned up in the first half, and then we looked quite good in the second half, but we've been chasing it from 1-0 down or 2-0 down. And but we played quite well in the second half, but the game had already almost gone in the first half. So yeah, I think we'll be looking for Derby to start on the front foot, and if Sheffield United do similar, it should be an entertaining game of football and go from there. I think we're in the position now, and you're not too far off it as well, where I think we looked at the tail of Saturday, we're 5 points off the top six and 5 points off the bottom three, and it feels like this next month, as we lead into the Christmas period as well, is probably crucial to decide whether we're going to spend the second half of the season looking upwards or downwards from here, really. So yeah, I think Derby fans will be hopeful for a win. I think if we came away from Bramall Lane, knowing what like I say, looking at the side and the squad and the money that Sheffield United have got at the moment, I think if Derby came away with a point on Saturday, people would be happy with that. But equally so, there's a belief that it's probably not as as difficult a task as perhaps it might have felt last year when we came to Sheffield United, when it was a case of how we're going to get some in there. If we can hold on for a 0-0, that'd be great. And for the first, I think until you scored in the game last year, we felt like we were in it. But once you scored, it felt like we were never going to get back in it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of teams coming to Bramall Lane with optimism, having seen others come to Bramall Lane and beat us. I think we played Southampton, and they scored one absolute screamer, but we were really really good in that game, and I don't know how we ended up losing it. But you know, Charlton came for Wilder's first game, nicked a win in the last minute. We've lost to Millwall, we lost to Bristol City. I'm sure there's one other at home, but we've lost a lot of games at home this season. So, like you said, I think just like winning breeds confidence, losing, breeds negativity. And if we did go 1-0 down after 5-10, we don't want that to happen again. So I think there's been quite a few games in Sheffield United's history where we've gone and thrown away and then the next game we've come back firing and won so many games on the trot or not lost.
seem to have lost Nick there slightly. Never quite sure in this situation whether it's my signal or his, but I think having him blacked out, we've lost him slightly there. But hopefully that's giving you an interesting insight. Nick, we've got you back. Sorry, I think you
Yeah,
spoke a
sorry
little bit
about
more
that.
there. But
Do
yeah,
you
I
want to
think
ask me that question again?
yeah, let's start that one again, and then I'll get the guys to cut and shut it from there. So yeah, going into the game on Saturday, I say we feel perhaps it's not quite as ominous a trip to Bramall Lane as it was last season when I think we always were coming hoping to get a 0-0, and once you went ahead, felt like we hadn't really got a chance of getting back into it.
Yeah, I think a lot of teams are coming to Bramall Lane this season, um, knowing that they can beat us because so many teams have beaten us this season. I think against Southampton we were fantastic, and we still came away with no points. So I feel like I said earlier, we've definitely turned the corner. We'll be better. We'll be harder to beat. We'll be better going forward. And I think after we've in the past after when we've conceded silly goals and given away leads and things like that, we've come back fighting the next game and gone on a 4 or 5 game without a defeat. So I think that's what we'll try and do. We'll try and shut up shop, and we'll just try and win this game by any means possible.
Okay, well, should be a good game on Saturday. All the best. Hope you enjoy it. Not too much, as they say. But Nick, thank you very much for your time. If anybody wants to follow Nick and see the Sheffield United reaction to it at the weekend, do have a look out for Nick on the Sheffield United way. And Nick, I'm sure we'll touch base again for the return match next year.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Nigel. Appreciate it.
Thanks.